What up? Welcome back to the pod. Y'all are just checking in with your two favorite people on the internet. It is everybody's favorite uncle, Uncle Don Don, yours truly, right? Joined by my virtual half, Qualls, aka.
Mr. Qualified, aka the little brother that loves to annoy y'all. How y'all doing?
There we go. And as y'all have checked in with us week after week, we have started checking in with the family, our network, our community, our people. So today I'm gonna steal a little of her thunder, but we have St. Louis finest, the one, the only, formerly known as Miss Flowers.
Forever Miss Flowers. Forever be Miss Flowers.
Yes. Let the people know who you are.
Yes. Hey, y'all. Thank you for having me. My name is Alana Marie. I am a Dallas-based but St. Louis bred creative, educator, social worker, social media manager, photographer, filmmaker, finance mama and wife. All the things, all the things, all the things.
Yeah, you got a whole lot of titles. Like if your LinkedIn has got to just infinitely scroll.
At this point, I done removed some stuff that in
Okay.
my life no more.
Right.
Okay, come
But
on.
yeah.
Out with the old, in with the new.
Hmm.
Speaking of new, we talked about this before we got on camera, but I had to get the new look for the episode because as soon as we got on camera, Alana said, "You coming for me?" And
And I
a
and he
little
did.
bit.
You are my main contender at this point.
Yeah,
And
you.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And look, I'm just aspiring to be you because you had Sacred before Sacred came out. Okay, your hair has all.
Listen, let them know. I want to go to my doorstep and see a package on my porch. I want to act surprised knowing I sent the team my mailing address beforehand.
Hollering.
Sure. Let me look at all surprised like, now you know they messaged you for your mailing address. Quit playing.
Right, talking about what me?
Yeah, they did. But I'll play the role.
Yeah, but no, we definitely wanted to specifically. First of all, I'm sorry, y'all gonna see this on camera. It's hot. I just did this shit for Alana. Okay, so now we're gonna put this back. We're gonna be in community together. Woo! All
I gotta
right,
keep
and
it
I got the shirt
responsive,
too
don't
for
it?
where it all started. So
Oh.
we Alana and I go way back. I don't know what the math is, but it's gotta be 16, 17 years.
At
Is that
this,
so?
yeah, at this point, yeah.
Lord, I carried the one, so that's gotta be.
Damn.
Yeah, we go back to
Mhm.
fall '08, starting at Mizzou. And while I don't rep Mizzou publicly, we
Mhm.
had a good time. We
We
had
had
a
a time. Those were very pivotal years of my life. They
yes.
were. They were, for sure.
Just so many things, and I mean we could go all the way down the timeline, but I think when it really got good and broke, but it was after graduation, and we
Hmm.
found ourselves. I think you said former educator as a title. I am in that same boat.
Hmm.
We started off at a little old job doing life and God's work, trying to get some kids in the St. Louis area
To
through high school
school.
to college.
Yeah, we were fresh. I just turned 23.
Hmm.
Just turned. So literally only 5 and 6 years older than the kids that we was working with. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I turned 23 like a couple of days before school started.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Qualls, can you believe they entrusted us
And
with guiding hundreds of high schoolers?
With these kids getting stopped in the hallway asking where our ID is. I'm like, you my colleague. I work here.
Oh, for real.
Okay. You my colleague. And we would go to each other's schools. I'll be like, I ain't got nothing else after school. I'm finna go. I'm finna go to Gateway. Knowing
No,
damn well.
I'll be right up there in Soldan because we was the only two in St. Louis Public, SLPS for a minute. So we was
Hmm.
all we had for real. So every college tour we went on, everything. I'm like,
Hmm.
what you doing, Miss Flowers? I'm about to
Literally. Stephen making $24,000 a year.
yeah, no,
$24,000 a year.
the first thing I learned as an adult is the math is really never mathing
Oh my
when it comes to
gosh.
them jobs, like education jobs in general. But typically, them first jobs out of undergrad, the math is never mathing, at least not in our favor, But like y'all said,
That's
God's work,
crazy.
God's work. That's where the pay is and doing God's
I
work.
mean, I'm grateful for like the students that I served. I'm still connected with them. Like we follow each other on some. I give to them once they graduated. I gave them my social media. But I'm still connected with them. Our baby showers, weddings, Miss Flowers, can you help me with a letter recommendation? And it's just 10 years ago at this point. So I'm forever grateful for that experience. It taught me how to really stretch a dollar because we only got paid once a month. And that was at the end of the month, the very end of the month. So we had to make that mug stretch. But we had a lot of broke fun though.
We
A lot
did
of broke fun.
a lot of broke fun. Broke
Mm-hmm.
fun like that. Let's round of applause to broke fun. I don't know. I make, as black folks say, he make good money. I make good money now and still be like, damn, I can't afford this trip. I can't go here. I can't do that. But when we was making, as I broke down the math, $11.54 an hour based on a 40-hour work week, which was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
How do we afford the things we did?
By the blood of Jesus. Listen, the Applebee's happy hours, and at that time, nigga, I had my daughters. I had food stamps. Okay. Like, but I don't know how we did it. Or when we have events at the school, like I'm taking some of this home. Like this gonna be dinner for later. Like I'm taking this home. Hella using the school budget. Okay. But I broke fun with some, even college. Like I saw a thread the other day and they were just talking about how they feel really bad for Gen Z because they never like they don't have like dollar wings or dollar night at the club or ladies free after 10. Like there's nothing, they don't have that phase that we had to where we could literally spend a whole weekend and only drop maybe $15, and that's on a good day. Like going to Tonic, going to what was it, the Field House, I don't know, like dollar margaritas, dollar Long Island iced tea. Like what? The kids weren't outside. They
They're
weren't
not
outside.
outside now.
But we had us a
They
time.
choose not to go outside, but that's their decision in their life. So
Sorry
Wait,
to that man.
how has life changed for you since our time at MCAC?
Donald, I've lived about 8 different lives
You
since
have.
since leaving Mizzou. But I mean, to me, it all kind of makes sense. So you leap graduating in December of 12, serving in the Americorps for 2 years. Which I don't know if I've ever told you how I even ended up getting that job. So I was actually my plan was to stay in Columbia for grad school for it was a human development and family services,
Hmm.
HDFS. I
Yep.
went to take my GRE, but my driver's license was expired, so I couldn't take it. And that was like the last application date for that program. And so I was like, well, God said I got to go back to St. Louis. So I'm working in not admissions, but the Student Success Center for Arts and Science program. And Miss Boyd, Vicky Boyd, had like put up the flyer and she was like, I think you would really be good for this. And I'm like, I mean, I'll try it. I'm like, okay, they serve schools in St. Louis. I'll probably end up getting picked in St. Louis. So I applied and that's how I got it. So ended up getting that job, serving for 2 years. And in that second year, right before school started was when Mike Brown was killed. And that was our last year. And so, we returned after that second year. So essentially just trying to figure out what I was going to do afterwards. But Mike Brown's murder really did impact me. And we all the day of of the verdict, like all of our schools were closed. We were in Ferguson, like cleaning up stuff and just seeing like the impact that it had on my students. And I decided to go back to school. So I ended up going to WashU for grad school. I was studying children, youth, and families. After that first year, I'm like, why am I paying all this money to study something that I was already in the field doing? And then I switched to social and economic development. And that's when I learned just so much about policies that impact the communities of color. And but I knew I didn't want to be direct practice. I was
Hmm.
interested in history and in policies and laws, but I did not want to do direct practice. The filmmaker in me was birthed in grad school. because it was like, you trying to be Ava DuVernay, but you got a social work degree. I'm like, all of your professors use films to guide lecture. I'm here for the people that are interested in learning stuff by visualizing it. And if they're intrigued by the topic, then they'll go back and find literature on it. So that's how that journey got started. But it was really me. I was always passionate about artistry and service at the same time. But at that time, it was you do your 9 to 5 and you do your artsy stuff when you get off of work. Grad school, and specifically my professor, Jack Kirkland, was the first time that I learned that I can merge both and it makes sense for me. And I tell people all the time, like, there's a lot I don't remember about grad school, but one thing I do remember is my professor saying, Alana, I don't worry about you because you're going to create your own job description. And I say that every time I do a talk. Professor Kirkland told me that. So much so that in my last year of grad school, he let me do an individualized study plan to where I did pre-production for my very first documentary while I was in grad school. So I'm forever indebted to Professor Kirkland because he just like, you make it work. This is what you want to do, you make it work. So got into documentary filmmaking from there. Then it's like, okay, I got this camera. I want to know what all the buttons do. I want to know how to do everything on here. And I got connected with Lindy Drew, who was the founder of Humans of St. Louis. She trained me in photography. And so she's another former social worker that took her training at the social work school to conduct interviews with everyday St. Louisans and take their pictures. And then it literally just kind of took off from there. So I've learned how to merge my passion for history and working with people, but also doing it in a creative way. And kind of been doing it ever since. So to me, I still feel like I'm in education and then I'm still in social work. It's just the way that I want to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. And I see we're in for a lot of great stories, which is awesome. Um,
Yeah.
but that kind of leads to the next question because you went and got your master's, Donald, you obviously got your master's, as did I. And in hearing both of you all's stories and being 4 years removed from my master's now, I think it starts to beg the question, of course. I think all people kind of revisit at a certain point whether the extra degree, or getting the extra degrees was worth it. Because I know for me right now, I won't say that it wasn't worth it, but there probably definitely could have been an alternative that maybe didn't involve paying for school again. But I think you made a great point
Mhm.
in terms of some of the experiences you get in education or in that second degree, while it may not be directly related to the program, some of the experiences allow you to
Mhm.
find an inspiration to forge your own path. But do you feel like the degree was worth it? Does it feel like doesn't seem like it feels like a waste of time, but looking back, do you feel like there might have been an alternative route that you feel like might have been more ideal?
Yes, but I think the interesting thing about social work specifically, it's one of the more expensive degrees that don't pay you nothing, which is always very like a social work degree at WashU is 40K a year. And that's what it was when I was there, which I think is utterly ridiculous. Do I think it's worth the pay? Absolutely not. But like you said, the network and the relationships that I built and just the parts of me that I was able to access only by being in that program. And I learned so much about myself just from being in that program. And then the friends I was able to make being there. I say it was worth it. And I'll even say the same thing for undergrad. Like I met my husband in undergrad. We didn't date until later, but I met him there. And so it's just one of those things where like money is not the only form of currency. It's not the only form of currency. And so when I think about like financially being in debt, I don't never plan on paying it all back no way. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. I really don't. Jesus paid it all. But outside of that, like there are experiences that I will not take back. But I will say like that 2 year gap of being in Americorps, if people are considering going into graduate school, I think they should take a gap year or whatever they need to do, getting in the workforce or trying other things before just going straight in. And hell, I'm at the point now in true Black woman fashion, every 6 months, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna go get my PhD. Why? I don't know. I learn better in classroom settings. I have learned that about myself. I do learn better in classroom settings, but I just need to sit down. I just need to sit down.
Who was that? Oh, well, by the time this comes out, y'all would have seen, but we had a previous guest say, stay where your feet are planted.
Hmm.
Shout out to Alice. We had Alice on here.
Oh,
So
yes.
trying to highlight all the dope women I know in the community. So, but yeah, sometimes just stay where your feet planted. It's fine to move and shake, and see where we're going just because you don't want to get complacent. But
Yeah.
how do you navigate all of the titles, your 80-page resume that you have, the mother of two, the wife,
Hmm.
just like dope black woman energy? Like, how do you navigate all of that and still have time to find sanity?
Oh, emphasis on the sanity part. I don't know. I was really inspired by my grandfather, who he passed at the age of 91, but in working on his obituary, I would just look back at, like, he was a police officer, a security guard. He served in the military. He was a chef. He worked at the casino. He was a self-made carpenter. And it's like, what's the point of being on this earth if not to try these different things that pique your interest? And I am one who, I do first and I think about it later. Like, I just want to try it and see how it feels. My husband, on the other hand, is like very cerebral. Like, he processes things and then he goes and acts on it. But I'm interested in so much, and also because in my later years, I'm not old, but in my later years, I was exposed to a lot more. Like, I was a mom before I was a woman. So there's certain parts that, or things that I wasn't able to access or do because I had my daughter. I had to finish school and I had to make sure that she was good. So now the part of me is like, my inner child is getting, time to play. And so there's that part of it that is responsibility, but the other part is also like, I want to play, I want to try it, I want to figure it out. Like, I'm going to put my hands on it. That, and I'm very blessed. Like, my in-laws live 3 minutes from me. I have a very active and supportive and engaged husband who's also in the arts, that benefits off of what I'm doing, and vice versa. And so I'm very well aware of the resources that I have at play, that I know a lot of people don't. And life is too short. I've had experiences where, health crises or financial crises, that now I'm just like, no, I want to, if I have access to it, I want to try it. And if it don't work out, then I'm gonna try the next thing. But life too short to just be sitting in one spot just because folks said it's what you're supposed to do. Not on my watch.
Super real.
No, that's real. So you kind of talked about this already, but like, I know how we came up. I know what we have wanted to forge for, past for ourselves, but like, what's the importance in community and all that? You talk about your husband, your in-laws. I mean, Mizzou, Black Mizzou at the time that we was there, like community. So what has that been looking like for you? How was that?
It is essential. It's a lifeline. I say all the time, like, life was never meant to do in silo. Community has come through for me in ways that I can't even, like, really put words into it. And so I also try to be a resource. And it's a lot of things about me, but being a gatekeeper is not one of those. So if I have it, if I have access to it, like, I don't believe in the self-made concept. There's no such thing as self-made. There's always somebody working on your behalf, a teacher, a counselor, a social worker. There's always somebody working on your behalf. But, like, I don't want to purposefully do stuff in a hard way if I don't have to. But
Mhm.
community it is my lifeline. It is my lifeline.
Oh, how does that look as you navigate like your successes and your failures? Does your outlook or does the way you approach your community change based off that? Or have you found that maybe your community treats you differently based on your successes?
Mhm. Um, I would say I've been successful in all the areas that I've been in. Even being in education, and that being like my very first industry. But that the roles that I got from there always came by, like, recommendation and word of mouth. So just understanding the importance of the connections that I made up to that point. But I guess from the outside looking in, of just the titles that I possess most recently, of like BET and the Essence, it's actually it's like I'm conducting a little science experiment. So, depending on the rooms that I'm in, may or may not say those titles because I'm witnessing like how sometimes people can treat you a certain way just because of that. So like for example, I just got awarded an artist residency for the community that I live in, but I have not mentioned BET at all. Like and I might do it in the end just to kind of see. Um but it just kind of depends. But I will say too though, because as being a content creator or creative in general, I've always been very candid about my story, good, bad, and different. Like I'm never the person to show up online when everything in my life is going right. And so I think I've done a good job of building a community, both in real life and digitally, who are rooting for me because they've seen the journey. So that I will say I have more people who I believe mean me well and are intentional with their support for me because they've seen A through Z. So I will say that I'm on the latter part. I have the more positive side of the support that I have.
That's what's up. Yeah.
Thank you.
You mentioned BET and Qualls and I was talking yesterday.
Be sure it
Qualls,
works.
what you have for?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Oh, you mentioned the Bets network, and we saw that you had interviewed just a certain somebody, not somebody too crazy to some, but to
yeah, a little slight work, a little light work. You know what I'm
to
saying? A little.
others, everybody's favorite co-host besides us. And maybe one of the most, popular black women on television and in
The
entertainment.
goat, the
The,
goat.
you know what I'm saying? How was it,
Yeah,
interviewing the Oprah?
Oprah.
Yeah.
It was very surreal. Context. Okay, the short of the long. So back to the question that you talked about community. So I've had two really, really amazing experiences. One, I got to work with Essence last year, and then currently working with BET. And both of those came from somebody in my network who mentioned my name in a room that I wasn't in and that vouched for me. And I will again, I thank them privately, I've thanked them publicly, very well aware of like the support and the importance of community, but also it's not about who you know, it's about who you know knows you. Because when people mention your name in these rooms, you still have to perform. You still have to do the work. So if you're not willing to do the work, they're not going to be vouching for you. So I still have to perform, and I did, and I do. So with BT specifically, I've only been there a couple of months. So this is my first like on the ground experience to go to the launch site one in West Texas for the Origin mission. And it was crazy. It wasn't even just her. Oprah sitting in front of me. Kris Jenner and Khloe Kardashian are sitting next to her. Jeff Bezos is sitting behind me. Like, but the room, I'm like, it's a whole lot of money in this room, y'all. I don't even know what to do with myself right now. I ain't smelled no parts of a penny of what they possess. But outside of that, I was like, but the room was very chill. It was like you had a picnic. Like there's media outlets there, but nobody's making a big corral out of anything. It was just almost to the point, but because it was so chill, I almost didn't want to say anything to her. But understanding representation, like BET is the only black outlet that was in the room. I'm with like People Magazine and Elle and notable publications. And so it was awesome for me to like, I want to make sure that I show representation. And she was literally just sitting right in front of me. I didn't even see her sit down. I was talking to somebody next to me and I just saw her hair in front of me. And so, but she was very personable and I, just tapped her on the shoulder. She leaned back, she grabbed my hand. I was like, she smelled real good, y'all. Uh, baby, she smelled real good. And I was just like, you are just a legend. Like, my goodness. But she was very personable, very sweet. And I was like, before the press conference gets started, I would just love to, talk to you for a second, just your thoughts on seeing your best friend just conquer her fear. And she let me put my little mic on her, and it was it. Like no other outlet, to my knowledge, anybody else that was in that room, I don't know if they interviewed her because I made connections, and they was like, I saw your mama with Oprah. I was like, yeah, I just gotta shoot y'all a shot. You know what I'm saying? I just gotta shoot y'all a shot. But it felt very comfortable. And if you go back and watch the video, which I'm very embarrassed about because my St. Louis ass accent came out so strong when I was talking to her, but I was comfortable. And she looked comfortable. Like she's leaning over in a chair, like talking to me. But it was, man, that shit crazy. Even to this, man, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah.
Real, because
I interviewed Oprah. Hmm.
I
Talk to me
heard
nice. Talk
And,
to me nice.
and did.
I heard your voice. I mean, I saw it on your page, and I saw I think Jeff commented, it was like, "You're so cool," and I was like, "Oh, what's he talking about?" With I was like, "Oh, it's Oprah. I'm gonna watch it." And I heard Miss Flowers right here, and I said, "Oh, wait a minute." And yeah, I was like, "That's so dope." But it was very it was chill, just like you described. I felt
Yeah.
like I was in the living room, or was back, Oprah's Legends Ball. Like it was very much that energy.
Yeah.
But no, that's
Yeah.
that's so dope. Like I'm proud of all my friends, but that I
Thank
know that
you.
has to go down in the record book for you as a kind of top experience. So shout out to you.
For sure. It didn't even cross, like, I knew Gail was going to be there, but it didn't even cross my mind that Oprah may be here too. Because my assignment, or I was there for Aisha Bowe, who, the rocket scientist, other Black lady that was on, um, the rocket ship. And so, amazing woman, smart as a whip, beautiful. But that just ended up being like another golden nugget. But similar with Essence, I really do feel like I'm in a season in my life where just like things are kind of happening easefully. And again, like my passion for storytelling and highlighting important issues, and talking about, like, I'm getting stretched in my storytelling, I'm getting stretched in my journalism. So it's like I'm in so many ways, like kind of going back to like my comms degree and my social work degree, just in a media format. So to me, it's like all coming full circle. So I lived several different lives, but to me, it's literally coming back full circle.
You did mention St. Louis, or you mentioned that your St. Louis accent came out in the interview, and you can't help that.
Yeah,
We
I
can't
couldn't if I
help it.
tried.
But
If I
if
tried.
you were going to talk about St. Louis as a guide to life, like what does that look like? What has where you from taught you, and how much of it kind of impacts, how you walk through life?
St. Louis as a city has always been regarded as an underdog. Um, it has been talked about as flyover country. Like you fly over St. Louis to get to where you need to go. It's never talked about as like a destination spot for vacations or just like a place to be. But St. Louis has so much history. It was originally supposed to be the capital of the United States, being in the middle of the country. Um, and just even a part of the Great Migration, like so much history has occurred in that city. And we deserve more. We deserve to be talked about more. A lot of the greats come from St. Louis, even if they don't live there anymore. And it's one of those things where if you can make it in St. Louis, you can make it anywhere. For sure. I didn't grow up in the city itself because I know how, Chicago get real territorial. Like, what's on your mailing address? If it don't say Chicago, you from Homewood, Flossmoor. You ain't from here. It ain't that deep, right? But the community as a whole, we're very territorial, we're very protective. And I just love how it's one of those things when you meet somebody from St. Louis, we're gonna always let you know that we from St. Louis. It's like watching a Celtics game and they're gonna let you know that Jason Tatum is from St. Louis, like type shit. That's what it's always gonna be. And I love that pride. And just even thinking about some of in modern day in the 21st century, just civil rights instances that have occurred, like with all of the unfortunate police shootings, like Mike Brown's was the one that literally was the keg that catapulted just all of this shift and these changes in this country, literally in the middle of the United States. So I feel like St. Louis is also a place of, an identity crisis. Like we're one of the most northernmost southern and southernmost northern cities. Like, baby, where we going? Some people think St. Louis is the South. It's crazy. But I'm a St. Louis ass nigga through and through to the day that I die. And I just it's in a space of like always having to constant or feeling like you always need to constantly prove yourself. But I feel like we're getting to a place now. It's like I don't got to prove none of y'all. Like I know my worth. I know what I'm capable of doing. You find your community, you build your tribe. But like I love St. Louis in the good, in the bad, and the ugly, in all of its glory. Forever.
That's what's up. I didn't know the thing about the capital,
Thanks.
so that's news.
Don't quote me, but I could have sworn when I was in grad school. I know that came up, but also because Jeff City is the capital of the state. that St. Louis was also in contention. But I think between St. Louis and Kansas City, it was gonna be St. Louis over Kansas City. Like, let's be real. Um, don't call me, but I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna send you the link.
So I mean, I ain't breaking HIPAA because I didn't heard you say it on the internet, but you had me dying laughing when you was talking about your colonoscopy. And I say halfway grown because I want our viewers to know that Alana also has a podcast
Yes, I
called the
have a
Halfway Grown
podcast.
Podcast. So if you could enlighten us about your podcast and also maybe a little bit of story,
Oh my
enlighten the
God,
folks.
yeah.
Ooh, no joke.
Child, we be cracking the hell up. So I have a podcast with my dear friend Key, who's also from the crib. She from St. Louis too. She went to Beijing. Called the Halfway Grown Podcast. And it's essentially a podcast just talking about the woes of adulthood with a humorous lens. And what's funny, back in I want to say December, the podcast was Devin's idea. Like I just remember walking in the kitchen and he's standing in the kitchen looking like Raven Simone when she had a vision. You know how she just be staring off. I'm looking at him like, what you staring at? And he's like, you and Keisha have a podcast. And I was like, say more. He was like, y'all, the conversations that y'all be having, like, I think it would do really well. And so I was like, okay, like, we're both photographers. We have the equipment. Shit, at the time, I ain't had no job. I had nothing but time. Like, so it was his idea. I told Key, she was like, shit, let's do it. And so, we shoot at Key's crib and Devin shoots it and edit it. And like the only money that we spent to kick it off was the microphone holder to put like the mics in, which was like $30 off Amazon. And we just built it from there. And so it's like y'all get an insight into how our conversations are when the cameras are not around. But the clip that Donald is talking about that I posted today, I was just talking, and what's funny, the episode theme is about uh just relationships, key relationships to have in your life. Didn't have nothing to do. Colonoscopy didn't have nothing to do with what the theme of the episode was, but I want to start doing a thing where like when we record, like, how did you adult this week? How did you adult? And I was like, girl, I had to get a colonoscopy. Like, if that ain't adulting, baby, I don't know what is. And he just would not stop laughing. And I'm trying to tell her my story. She wouldn't stop laughing. Just two big ass kids. But yes, I love it. It's work, as y'all know, like trying to child, it is work. But it's one of those things where it has become a creative outlet with no expectations. Like it'd be dope to get, sponsorships and partnerships from, the podcast, but it's like I don't we ourselves, we use our resources, we talk about what we want to talk about, and we go from there. So it's like technically it's a lot of work, but I really enjoy it. And I do see a lot of potential for it because it's picking up more, but it's just having fun.
But I don't know, maybe he'll court us, for a crossover episode. Maybe Qualls and I get to Texas and we'll be,
Yes, because
halfway grown
season
and just
two, we
checking in with each other.
are, we are. So the first season, we was like, we just want to build our like people who learn. We get our feel for it, and then season two, we gonna start bringing people in. We're gonna start bringing people in for sure.
We've been to Texas before. We know how to get back.
Ain't no problem. Ain't no
In
problem.
this administration, I hope you know how to get back.
Listen, Texas is about as far as we can go. Okay, we can't,
Precisely.
Look, Dallas,
we're Underground Railroad ourselves to you just to.
I can't.
We got to give the people what they want. They want to see us laugh. They want to see y'all laugh. Let's laugh together.
Please, because we need it. We need it. We really do.
Yeah, then we can have some broke fun together.
oh
There
yeah,
I
we
love a broke fun. Happy hour me.
full circle moment. That teacher brain, I still got it. So I done brought the lesson back together, but I will give it to Qualls to officially outro us.
indeed, indeed. Well, we want to thank you again for taking time to come and just check in with us. We love just checking in with all the people in our network and in our community. For y'all that are watching or for y'all that are listening, please remember to like the episode wherever you listening, like it on YouTube if you watching, subscribe as well so y'all can get updates on when we drop more fire content. And don't forget all the gems that were dropped in this episode. She was dropping them by the minute, by the second, actually. So tap in. But yes, until then, until the next check-in, we will catch y'all next time. Peace.
Brr, 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 brr.